we're halfway through, so let's make this week the week of actually reading the things that I need to read for my career. Let's do that, shall we?
What did you do?
Maybe made a face.
Okay.
So far so good. I'm liking it. There's a Chris in the background. You can hear him.
I'm not quiet ever.
No, you're not. It's okay. Okay, you're just proving a point. So yesterday, I ended up finishing Anna Maria and the Fox, the first in the Luna Sisters series. I'm spinning. Why am I spinning? I'm in the wrong chair is what's going on. Hello everybody, my name is Kelsey and we're about to get very, very nerdy with week 3 of the Magical Readathon. So, as you probably saw in last week's vlog, I have one book that's coming over from last week, and that is The Belle of Bellgrave Square by Mimi Matthews, which is the second in the Bells of London series, and this one is for Spells and Incantations, which is to read a book between, I always forget the exact book page, 389 and 415, and this is just over 400 pages. I read a little bit last night because I ended the vlog saying that I was in chapter 19 last week, and now I'm in chapter 20. So we're definitely halfway through the book at this point, close to halfway through. So I will be diving into this one in the next few days, and that's really the only one that's like come over. It's a historical romance that basically follows our main character Julia, and she gets into a marriage of convenience with this guy named Captain Jasper, who is a scarred war hero, and he really needs a fortune, and she has one, and she needs to get away from her crazy parents because her crazy parents are sickly and think that she is sickly, and she's never been able to kind of be her own person, so she needs to run away. So that's kind of why they get into this marriage of convenience. Now, Julie also has terrible social anxiety, so part of this is getting her away from the social season. It's giving her stability, and also he has a kind of countryside estate, so they've also created a bargain where like she can take her horse with her because horse riding is really important to her, as well as reading novels. And so he's like, you can read as many novels as you want. And so like they actually create this like bargain or contract between the two of them. But what I liked about this so far, which I don't think I've mentioned when I talked about it in last week's vlog, is that yes, they get married because of, or they get introduced, let's say, because he needs a fortune and she needs a husband, but that's part of the reason they get married, but there also is like genuine affection between them before they get married. So it's not just a like, look, we're happy, and then affection will come later. It's like planted in their relationship from early on, and I was heavily invested in their story from like page 1. These are relatively clean romances, the first one being The Siren of Sussex, and that one was 100% clean, so I think this one, there might be more tension in this one than the first one, but so far we don't really have anything. So that's what I'm bringing into this week. I did mention this other book that I have planned for this week last week, but I didn't actually do like much reading last weekend, and this weekend I'm going to try to do a lot, and it's a book that doesn't really fit for any of my prompts, but she is doing like a side quest with her readathon as well, which doesn't have to end when this month is over, so I'm hoping to continue doing the quest over the next few months as I like find things that fit for these prompts, because it's very much like you read one thing and then it takes you to a new place and you have different options, and then based on that you have different options. So it's very much a like read as you go kind of thing. But the first prompt to get the quest started is to read a book with night on the cover, and I think this one counts. I'm making it count basically, and that is Anna Maria and the Fox by Leona de la Rosa. This is my book of the month book that just came this month, but my coworker and I both get book of the month, and we both ended up getting this book, so we're going to read it, buddy read it kind of this weekend. We were planning on doing it last weekend, but with it being Easter, neither of us really did much reading. So what I'm saying is night on the cover is if you look down here, you can kind of see like a city skyline, and it's dark and it looks like there are lights on, which makes me think that it's nighttime. So that's why I'm saying this is night. I'm going to make this count is basically what I'm saying. So This one is one that I'm also going to get to this weekend, and then I have other ideas of things that I really want to get to this week, but these are what I'm bringing in, and these are the ones that I am planning, like hardcore planning for this week. That is the plan going into this week. So we're halfway through, so let's make this week the week of actually reading the things that I need to read for my career. Let's do that, shall we? Hello. So I have updates. I have so many updates. Okay, like so many might be an exaggeration, but I finished 2 books since I talked to you last, and I'm here to tell you my thoughts on them. So, over the weekend, I think it was late Saturday night, I guess technically Sunday morning, I finished The Bells of Bellgrave Square, or The Bell of Bellgrave Square, by Mimi Matthews, and I gave this one 5 stars. I adored this book. I did actually have an arc of this, like, way back when this came out, so I do have a Goodreads review. I'll leave it down below if you'd like to check it out, but I head over heels fell in love with the story. I loved all of the characters. I loved Julia and Jasper. There's definitely a lot of reveals in this book when it comes to Jasper. He's got a lot of secretiveness surrounding his history. So there's a lot with him that kind of gets divulged in the last little bit. It did wrap up quickly, but I don't think it didn't feel quickly. Like, I was realizing that we were getting to the end and that we were going to have to be wrapping things up, and there was only a couple of chapters, and I think like the big thing that wrapped up in the very last chapter, but it didn't feel like rushed or anything to wrap everything up. It felt like that was like the appropriate amount of time, and I just really love Julia and Jasper as a couple. I think they're so sweet. I love this one more than the first one, honestly. It was so good. He had Darcy vibes, like a lot of Darcy vibes. I don't know if he was inspired by Mr. Darcy, but there's definitely some similarities in character as far as like standoffishness and, okay, standoffishness might not be the right word, but like being, what is the right word? Being reserved maybe is more of a correct word for him, but I really liked it, and then I liked seeing the two of them grow towards each other, and like the
them thaw and melt and fall, and I loved every second of it. So this one was good. Like from page 1, I was heavily invested in the two of them. I said that from the beginning. So it just kind of kept going. And there was definitely some stuff, like you get to the climactic moments in romances where you just go, okay, but why did you do that? This could have been solved if you had done X, Y, and Z. But in this case, yes, things could have been solved if people talked about their problems and didn't keep secrets. But at the same time, the secrets that were kept, it made sense why they were kept. It wasn't like a dumb secret that they were keeping for the sake of keeping a secret because he didn't trust her to like him, or whatever the dumb excuse is in a lot of romances. This one felt like, yes, he had secrets, yes, things would have been solved if he had told our heroine about them, but at the same time the secrets were pretty big. Like it made sense that he didn't want to divulge this information. I just feel like the reactions and the conversations were very relatable is not the right word, realistic, in a sense of if two people were in the situation that our main characters were in, I feel like anyone would have reacted this way. So it just felt really realistic, and I liked their romance, and I'm obsessed with this series. And I don't know, actually I might know at this point. I feel like I've looked online, but the next book that's coming out at the beginning of next year, I think, follows Anne, who is obviously someone we met from the first book, but plays not a big role in this one. I feel like she played a bigger role in the first book, but it definitely, she plays a role at the end of this one, and I think we hinted very clearly at her love interest, so I'm interested to see how that's going to go. And I feel like the next one's going to be really interesting because her mom is very into like the occult and seances and stuff like that, so this is going to be very interesting. But that is beside the point. I loved it. I tabbed the crap out of this book, as you can see. I thought there were so many cute moments between the two of them, and it is, I would still say it's relatively clean. Yes, there is a scene in this book, but as far as like what I've read, this definitely leans towards the cleaner side of things. It's very surface level, very just kind of like touched upon without a lot of detail, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So if you still want that clean romance vibe, there is a scene in here, but it's very not descriptive, if that's your thing. But I adored this, and I loved everything about it. This book makes me happy, okay? This book makes me happy. This, if I hadn't have read Kingdom of the Wicked or the Kingdom of the Feared, this would probably be my favorite book of the month, just because I enjoyed it that much. So I have another prompt down, another book completed, another one that's required for my career, which was Spells and Incantations. So we have completed this one, and it's a good day. And then, as you probably saw last night, I started At The Priory by James Rudick, which is my nonfiction for the month. It's also for a class that's required for my career, which was, I think, Animal Studies? Yeah, Animal Studies, where I flipped a coin and it was like heads fiction, tails nonfiction, or vice versa, and we got nonfiction. So this was the one I stuck in. It's a true crime story about this woman named Florence Ricardo, and her second husband, he dies via poison, and so it's the true crime case surrounding him. And I finished this one today at work. Or not today at work, I finished this one on the way home. So I ended up giving this one 3 stars. I felt there were aspects of this that I enjoyed, but overall my biggest issue with this, I think, is that it was just genuinely boring. I think there's a way that you can take a true crime story and write it in a way that makes it entertaining or makes the reader want to continue, whereas this one, I think the writing is the biggest detriment to it because it made it kind of boring. But it was formatted in a very interesting way. It's formatted in 2 different parts. So this takes place in 1875, and Florence's first husband was awful, abusive, a drunk, like a terrible person. And so she gets out of that relationship, has a lot of money, buys this place called The Priory, and proceeds to get married again to this other guy who's an attorney. And he is also terrible, abusive. And so I would look up trigger warnings for this because everything under the rainbow is in this. It's handled in not the best way, because this is given to you as like facts in the case. So like they don't shy away from telling you what's going on, and they also don't phrase it in a way that could soften the blow. It's very like, here's what happened, let's move on. So it's be wary of that. The first half of the book, or at least the first section of the book, is the facts from the case. So the author goes into everything that the police at the time of the murder would have known, everything that they collected, all the witness statements, all of the facts leading up to it. We get a little bit of a synopsis on Florence's life and, you know, how she came to have her first marriage, her second marriage, everything in between, why she was not thought of particularly highly because of some stuff, some scandal that surrounded her, that kind of stuff. And so this was unsolved. And then the second half of the book is the author basically going down a rabbit hole of, here's what I found. Now that we are in like a more modern time, because I don't even remember when this was written, but now that we're in a more modern time and I have access to different things, this was written in 2001, or it was published in 2001. So now that I have access to these more modern things, and I've gone down the rabbit hole and I've talked to people who are descendants, and I found letters from people who were involved in this house and stuff, here's my conclusion on what happened. And I liked it a lot. Well, so here's the thing. I liked the beginning because I did like getting the backstory of Florence and how she got into the situation she was in. And I liked the end where the author kind of walks you through all the possible situations and all the possible people who could have been the murderer and why they're not. And then kind of walks you through who it is because he thinks he solved it. I mean, it's not actually set in stone as to the whodunit because it's been so long and everyone involved has died. But based on all the facts, he can look at it and say, okay, here's who I think did it. And it's exactly, well, it's not exactly who I thought it was. It's based on the facts. I thought it was somebody else. And then I thought it was somebody else. And then I thought it was somebody else. So like I was jumping all over the place. But I liked that because it gave all the facts up front, so you knew everything about the case before he gave you his thoughts on it. So I liked the way that it was phrased in that way. I just think, again, it's a tough story. She has a really tough life. It's at this time where anything that belonged to a woman belonged to her husband, and so she had a lot of issues with him because this house was hers, and the money that she inherited to buy said house was hers, and he wanted it because he was a fortune hunter, her second husband, who's the one who dies. He wanted it, and he thought it was his right to have it, and technically via law it was, but she was more modern, and so there was a lot of issues with that. So she had a rough life, so it's not the easiest thing. And again, the writing was very bleh. So that's why I got 3 stars, because by the time I hit like a lull in the middle and I just wanted it to be over, and then I kind of got reinvested again near the end when we got to the section about, you know, the whodunit head section and who the author actually thought did it. So I'm glad I read it. I don't think I'm going to hold on to it. I'll probably unhaul it after my wrap up just so I can have it to talk about, but I have no interest in this now that I've kind of read it. It's a very interesting story. I liked all the context of the world that this woman lived in, but as far as rereading, probably not going to. Glad I read it. It was interesting for what it was. We're going to move on. So I have completed 2 things that have both been required for my career, which is very, very exciting. So that's my update. I am currently reading Anna Maria and the Fox. I'm not very far into it. I'm on page 60, so I'm only 4 chapters in, but today I kind of dedicated my time to Death at the Priory because I did have the audiobook for my library and I wanted to get that sent back. But I am going to dive into this one a little bit more. Tonight, tomorrow, the next couple of days, that kind of thing. This is going to be my priority for the next couple of days. So I'm not far enough into this to really have an opinion yet. But I'm liking our characters. I'm liking the world we're set in. It's in Victorian England, so we do have hints at Victoria and Prince Albert, who is still alive at the time of this book. We get Anna Maria, who is the oldest of 3 sisters from Mexico, and she's come to England. Like some of the reasons I'm a little confused on, but basically she and her sisters fled Mexico because of some stuff that her dad's been dealing with. He's like a political power over there, and she's always kind of, basically she's been told what to do her entire life, and she's a little fed up with that. So she and her sisters have come to England basically to get away. So her dad has very strict opinions on what she needs to be doing, but she's there with her uncle, and her uncle's like, I think you can help out the cause. So they've kind of put them into society and I think they're hoping that they're going to make matches in England to help people understand what's going on in Mexico and I believe it's the French occupation of it, if I am correct. My history on this section is a little all over the place. I know there is a section at the very end of the book that's an author's note, and it'll go into kind of more of the historical elements of it, but so far so good. So you've got Anna Maria Luna, and then Gideon Fox, and Gideon Fox is an MP, and his goal is basically to abolish the slave trade in England. So you've got the two of them. They've met a couple of times, and I had a scene just now that made me so irrationally angry because she's talking with just some other person in the town, and he assumes that she is from Spain and doesn't understand that Mexico and Spain are not the same place. And the stupidity of this human, I can't with him. And so I was just genuinely angry for her. But you do have Gideon, who is kind of trying to be there for her, but they did just kind of have a fight. So we'll see what happens. Not very far into it, but I do like them as a couple. I think they're really sweet, and they can talk about stuff, which is nice because she has a lot of opinions, but being a woman, she kind of keeps them hidden. Being her dad's daughter, she kind of keeps things hidden, and Gideon is all about, no, tell me how you're really feeling. So I'm excited to see how this is going to progress. I'm hoping to get through more of this soon, but this is going to be my priority for the next couple of days. Again, this doesn't fit a specific prompt, but seeing as looking at my list, I only have 3 books left that are required for my career, and I still have like this week and next week. I'm feeling good. We're diving into this one because I'm very interested in where this is going. So that's where I'm at. So that's just a little update. Finished a couple of things since I talked to you last. I am making some progress, and I am quite proud of myself, if I do say so. Hello, I am here with final updates. Well, I mean, I do have an update, but also to kind of wrap up this vlog. It is Friday, and I had the day off today, so I've just kind of been hanging out at home. Had a lot of housekeeping type things that I still haven't done and need to do, but that's besides the point. Was it yesterday? I think it was. I finished Anna Maria and the Fox by Lena de la Rosa. This is so good, but it started off rough. So this book, I kind of told you a little bit about it when I mentioned it in the last update, but basically Anna Maria and her 2 sisters have come over to England from Mexico because her father is a diplomat in the Mexican government, and they are being basically controlled by Napoleon and the French. And so it's not safe for them there anymore, so the 3 of them get sent to England, and her uncle basically thinks that like a really good way to maybe have them help the conflict of Mexico and France is to kind of put them out in the open and have a lot of people see these 3 sisters, get to know these 3 sisters, and see that, you know, oh, we have a face to the conflict now. Maybe we should actually start helping out and solving whatever issue is there. So they have kind of exiled themselves a little bit for their own protection, and no one knows the connection. Like, they know that they are Mexican, but they don't know that they are their father's daughter because he's so high up. That's the goal, is to kind of keep their identity secret. And then, of course, while out and about, she runs into Gideon Fox, who is in Parliament and trying to abolish the slave trade. And so they have a lot of really fun and interesting conversations, and I really enjoyed their romance. But the story is interesting in the sense of there's a lot of character development at the beginning, and you really get to see Anna Maria and Gideon finding a friend in each other because they both have very specific goals in mind. They both know that they want the best for whatever it is. In his instance, it is to get rid of slavery. In her instance, it's to free her people. And so, like, they have their own respective agendas, I guess, and what's important to them, and they can kind of become friends and comfort each other because their goals are a little bit similar. And so because of that, he knows that he can't take a wife. He knows that he shouldn't take a wife unless it's, you know, advantageous towards his goal. And
he really finds Anna Maria fascinating and attractive and really likes being around her and finds himself falling for her, but is trying to not fall for her because she's not gonna like help out. He just knows that it's not going to be good, and also she has a fiance. Because of that, the first half of the story is them becoming friends and really getting to know each other and having these really in-depth, deep conversations. And then the second half of the book, or I would say maybe more than the second half, it's about the 200-page mark, is when things really start happening. So the beginning is interesting because you do get this character development between the two of them, but it's kind of boring because like nothing is happening. And then you get the second half of the book, or the latter third of the book, when things actually start really happening and like the plot starts to gear up. So this went from being a 3-star to a 4-star very quickly because of the end, because it started to get better. Like I said, I loved their conversations. I think it was really cool to see the two of them in this world that is so strict on what is correct to say in society and X, Y, and Z, and both of them being not white has a more of a spotlight on the two of them to do the correct thing and really focus on the fact that they need to do what is, you know, politically correct, or, you know, correct considering how to hold yourself and what to talk about and what not to do in society and that kind of stuff. So they bond over that, and they also bond over the fact that they don't have to do that with each other. They can have these very in-depth, real conversations with each other. And that was really cool to learn about, but I was really starting to get bored after a while because like nothing was happening and I couldn't see a plot where it would force them into whatever situation they need to be forced into for their romance to continue. It just kind of felt stagnant for a while. So I was really worried about that, but then when the 200 mark hit, it really got better. So I liked this a lot. It ended up being really, really good. I also loved the sister relationship in here because they have basically been raised their entire lives to see each other as enemies almost. Not with words and not like people telling them that their sisters are their enemies, but just like little small things that have always separated them from each other. And so coming to England and being away from their father and being away from a court that is so strict and so focused on what they should be, they can actually be who they want to be, and they really become sisters towards each other. And so there's a lot of really beautiful moments between these three sisters, which is Anna Maria, Gabriella, and Isabella, and the three of them really becoming sisters. And it gave me a lot of the like Lizzie Bennet Diaries vibes, but when that is a reimagining of Pride and Prejudice that does focus a lot on the female relationships in their lives. And so you really get to see that in here, and the vibe is very similar in my opinion. So I loved them. I'm so excited to see what's next. I know based on the back of the book and the author's note, she does tell us that we're getting Isabella's story next, so I'm very excited about that. But according to Goodreads, there's not even anything else in the series planned right now. So I will just be patiently waiting for the other books in the series because it's very clear to me who the love interests are for the sisters. And I'm very interested to see what's going on because there's a lot of things that were kind of mentioned but not told what's going on, like especially with, for example, Gabby and this other like guy. All of them are friends with Gideon, of course. So it's this other guy and the two of them, something happened and they cannot stand each other, and we don't know what that is. And I'm fascinated to figure out what happened in the past, like what conversation they had that made them dislike each other. So that's gonna be very interesting. Hate to love that. I'm very interested to see where that goes. But I love seeing these characters, and it did take me a little bit of a while to get through this relatively short book because the beginning was so rough. It was interesting, so I don't want it to sound like I didn't enjoy the beginning. Stagnant is the best way that I can describe it. It just felt very stagnant until we got to a point where the plot really started to pick up and some of the climactic moments started to happen, and it really moved and pushed our characters to do certain things. So very excited about this. I can't believe I actually got a book of the month book in the month that I bought it. It's crazy. But this was a good one to invest in, and I can't wait to see the other books in the series. I very much enjoyed this. But this was the first book in the quest, so it didn't really count for a prompt as far as my career goes, but it started the quest, which is one that I'm going to probably be doing beyond the month, even though G said that you could do it beyond the month, to kind of do it whenever you want. So I'm probably going to like fit some prompts here and there just behind the scenes. But I also started, which I am going to take into next week, Restless Slumber by KJ Sutton, which is required for my career, but I can't remember what for. Oh, I have the freaking bookmark in there. I could just look at that. Oh my goodness. Okay. So this one is for shape-shifting, which is to have a wolf on the cover in some way, whether that's in the name, whether that's in the author's name, whether that's a wolf depicted, which is what I have. I have a wolf depicted here. So this is a big chunker. It's like 450, almost 450 pages. So we're definitely going to start with a chunk next week, but I am somewhere in chapter 7, I think. Yeah, so I'm about 70 pages into the book. So really not far into it, but I'm loving it. We start directly after the first one, and I'm really interested to see where things go. Things have happened, and we have some trauma that we're dealing with our characters in this book, and kind of the repercussions of the very end of the first one. So I'm interested to see where we go from here. I don't know plot-wise where we're going to go because we're just kind of starting things out, but I am very invested in Fortuna as a character, and Colith, who is the Fae husband that she has, and her brother, and like all these people who are invested in part of the story. I'm very invested in them, so I'm interested to see where things are going to go, because we got some plot twists. So I don't have a lot of opinions, but I expect this one will pick up as I continue to read it. I have been listening to it a little bit today, but not a whole lot. So this one will start off next week, and I kind of have a theme a little bit for next week, because this one and 2 other books that are required for my career. So I have to get cracking on the last few things, which I think I can do, because one of them is a graphic novel and one of them is a book that I'm probably going to finish relatively quickly. But this is the book that I'm taking in to next week. So that is basically what happened this week. I'm probably not going to read much more today, so we'll go ahead and end the vlog here, but I hope that you enjoyed. We had a relatively productive week, I want to say. We finished 3 things, and 2 of them were required for my career. Was it 3 or was it more than 3? I think it was 3. I think it was 3 things. And then we started another one that was required for my career, and I got some fun bunny reads and all that fun stuff. So I had a relatively productive week, I would say, and I'm excited to see what the last week of the readathon, how that goes, because I've got some plans. So let me know how your reading is doing, as always, if you're participating, or just how your April reading is going. I would love to know what you are currently reading as of watching this. What are you currently reading? Let me know your thoughts. How are you feeling about it? Tell me all the things. But if you like this video, and I very much hope that you did, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe down below if you'd like to be part of this awesome growing family. I've also got all my social media down there, as well as other fun bookish links. So check all that out, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!